We're going to have a special show today, that being the Vast Voice. We're telling business secrets to entrepreneurs, and we're going to be joined by my new co-host, Lily Faulkner. What's up, Lily?
Everybody, super excited to be here. I'm nervous. You might be able to see that, but I think we'll get past the jitters and it's going to be a really great show. So I'm looking forward to it.
I can't wait to look back in maybe 5 years and watch this recording, this video or audio, and see what it was like. Maybe you're a little nervous now, but down the road, you're going to be like Larry King or Oprah. You're going to be a
Oh my
total
gosh.
pro.
We could do a mashup,
There
like a
you
one
go.
minute mashup of all the shows at anniversary. I think it's going to be killer.
Oh man, I'm excited for this. So, obviously, for the first two seasons, it was just me, the big guy, Ken French, talking. Obviously, I'm with VastSolutionsGroup.com. We're doing this podcast again called The Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. I was doing it all alone, doing it solo. I had a blast doing it. It was really, really fun. But now we decided to take it another direction for season 3, season 4, etc., and have a co-host who is a complete stud at that, being you, Lily.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm super excited to join. Big shoes to fill. You've been doing it on your own, and 2 years is, I'm assuming, brought in a lot of audience. So I'm hoping I'm well received and loved, and I'm open to your guys' feedback of what you guys want to see and chat about because we're ready. We're ready to talk. Who doesn't like to talk? Who doesn't like to talk about your business and what business is happening and what more we can bring to the table? So I'm super excited.
Totally. You brought up a good point already. We're not even 3 minutes into it, and you brought up a good point. If anyone wants to provide any any advice, any thoughts on the show, because we're trying to make this better, because we're trying to help the entrepreneurs, one, to have fun, but two, also to make better their business.
Yeah.
Please go ahead and email us at info at vastsolutionsgroup.com. Again, info at vastsolutionsgroup.com. We love the feedback, and we want to make this show for you and that much more fun and that much better, to help you guys out there, increase your income and hopefully live a greater and better life. So why don't we get to it there, Lily? So we're going to be talking, I guess, really, about podcasts, because that's what we're doing here, doing podcasts. People are going to watch it, listen. So let's talk about the fact that now I've decided to broaden my horizons by bringing on someone who's much better than I am at this, who's going to be, helping to, talk about a whole nother gamut in the world of entrepreneurialism. So what are your thoughts, to the general audience about, having two people versus a solo one? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are I think it's always more entertaining to hear two voices, especially if you're just sitting in the car listening to it. I know that a lot of people maybe are, have a commute to work or put them in the while they're trying to get work done and they're not necessarily viewing it. So I think having variety in the voice is always easier on the ear to listen to. Kind of keeps you in tune and entertained. I mean, in general, podcasts I think is just such a world of information that is opened up with technology. I mean, if you think about it, 10 years ago, who could just get in front of a mic and upload content about just talking about a subject and having that go viral and being able to get out and touch people's lives through that alone. I mean, outside from the TV and the radio and having mass productions and putting a lot of money into it, I think it's just amazing that now that we have the creative freedom to just say, I want to do this. And then you do by just, flipping your phone up and recording yourself and putting it live. It can be as easy as that. So I think podcasting is an incredible way to get your name out there, your brand out there, to talk about what you have to offer. And also, like you said, to get feedback at info@vastsolutionsgroup.com as to what more you want to see or what pains you're experiencing, because then that's how you get help. That's how you get support. That's how you get tips and tricks.
Yep, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. I had a blast doing it alone, but I think it'll be that much more powerful having someone that I can vibe with, because you're awesome. I've always, gotten along with you. I think that a lot of the audience will be able to vibe with you too, because you represent a big swath of society. And who is that? For one, I mean, this is going to sound weird. You're the spokesman, in my opinion, the spokesman of the modern day mom, working and at the same time being a family woman. You're charging ahead in your career. Obviously, you're crushing your career. And at the same time, you're very personable. So you check every box, really. So tell me a little bit about your background, because I think it's a cool background. I think people need to hear about your background. I didn't even know enough about your background until recently. I found out about your trading background, et cetera, et cetera. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm 40. So that's exciting. I'm entering a new decade in my life. I'm a newish mom to some degree. I've been married for 20 years or so. helped raise two great kids. My husband had two little ones and, had them hand by hand. And then surprise, we have a 3-year-old now. So that's been interesting. I thought I was going to be 37 in Vegas celebrating with my 21-year-old, and instead I'm, having a baby. So that's been interesting. But as far as my professional life is concerned, I, for a really long time, just was trying to get myself through school and college and did bartending in restaurants. And then I landed, truly just tripped and landed on an opportunity to get into the securities world. And I worked my way up from receptionist to being the trader and compliance. I worked for one of the largest private broker dealers on the West Coast. We managed roughly 175 reps, and eventually I was the trader. So for about 7 years, all I did was sit in front of 3 computer screens with headsets, and I was just entering orders all day long. You have nightmares about waking up and saying, did you do 100 shares or 1,000 shares? Because that makes a difference in someone's life. And then, back in the day when you wrote checks, you don't do that anymore. I don't know who carries a checkbook. I used to write Apple, AAPL, because that was the ticker symbol. So that ruled my life for a little while. And then I realized that was not a business that was enjoyable anymore because of the, heavily regulated items that were coming through the pipeline. So decided to shift directions, and I find myself just not able to focus on one thing at a time. And so I just landed on an opportunity where I could work for a company that has multiple companies. And I thought to myself, well, what a resume, right? That I can be in different genres, and I can be in genres that deal with different companies, and I can learn operations across the board. So I've kind of been doing that now for the last decade, shifted over, and we have different companies that then I help support operations in. And so that's really exciting because any given day I can put one hat on, and at the end of the day, I've put 7 different hats on that deal with other businesses, and that's exciting. So, yeah.
Crazy busy life you have. That's kind of one way of looking at it.
Yeah, it can be. But
Yeah.
you're doing the same thing, right, Kenner? I mean, you're in the same vein of knowing that diversification is important to not just your personal portfolio, but the stream of how you support the public. So, you are also providing support across the way in regards to tax support, bookkeeping support, advising support. So, I mean, I would say you tell us a little bit more. Maybe the public needs a refresher as to what you can do and what Vast has to offer.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and we're even branching out even more. Yeah. So, obviously we're kind of our company started out as just back in 1969 by Gary Coons at Seamount Financial Group in Bellevue, Washington, just kind of a small little company that grew very quickly into, a financial advisory firm, did a lot of insurance. And then I came into the picture in 2006 and kind of changed it to really working with solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, smallerpreneurs, if you will, because those are the ones that really were forgotten about in the marketplace. And then we've expanded now, not only doing taxes for entrepreneurs, we do investments through another separate entity for compliance purposes. We have an actuary. We have we even are kind of starting into a strategic alliance with something pretty cool as far as asset protection and also estate planning. And still with our core business of working with entrepreneurs to lower their tax liability. And then, our big thing, by the way, I cannot forget, is we're doing commercial property finance for entrepreneurs, usually doing commercial properties. So remember that, commercial properties. But yeah, in addition to that, yeah, I'm a family man, obviously. I've been married to my wife, Kristen, for many years. She's married to the greatest man on earth. And then I'm busy with my son, Braden French, and we live on a little island called Bainbridge Island, Washington. So yeah, I'm busy doing the businessman thing. And then also, obviously, I'm busy with, raising my, working with my family, raising my family, if you will, that being really primarily Braden. And things are, I'm very happy in today's world, especially now because it's sunny on Bainbridge Island, Washington. Usually it's rainy, but I'm glad you asked me that question. But things are rocking, and I'm loving doing this podcast. I think that I'm blown away by the benefits that I've seen in recording these season 3, because man, now, and this is for any entrepreneur out there, you should be at least thinking about doing a podcast. I've strengthened relationships with our clients, with some vendors, with some new prospects. People are seeing our name out there at vastsolutionsgroup.com on our social media sites as a result of us doing podcasts more proactively now in season 3. And then also a big thing I never even thought about, when I have a guest on, or when we have guests on, they are going to go tell their audience much more proactively now because, well, they want to grow their business. They want to show that they're doing another podcast, especially a big one, hopefully like ours, at the same time. So that gets our name out there. So
Mhm.
really, people should be thinking about podcasts as a way of building their business, getting their voice out there. And hence the reason, by the way, Vast Voice helping or telling business secrets to entrepreneurs, because man, getting your name out there is really, really important out in the marketplace.
Yeah, if you could quantify the lead conversion since you started doing podcasts versus your traditional SEO, Google searches, or even just seminars, what would you say that that's brought to the table?
Ooh, very good question. All right, that's a very good question. Of course, Lily brings up a killer question. What I would say is, I think people feel like they know you if they hear you,
Mhm.
so the conversion rate will be a little bit higher. And now that we're doing our podcast via viewable terms, I think people really connect with you. So what I would say to the people, the entrepreneurs out there, you should start a podcast and do it as a viewcast, so it's both audio and visual, because you're going to have a higher conversion rate. I'm really glad you asked that question, because that reminds me of the fact that, whoa, our rate of return is going to be better on a podcast than it would be a normal traditional SEO, let's say, posting on Facebook as an example.
And your cost, I imagine, your overhead to do this and the rate of return, actually, that bridge is wider because you're not having to invest into the traditional things that can be costly versus just the upload of the podcast, right?
Yeah, you're totally right. And especially now that we're going to have you and I do it, I think more eyeballs will be on it because there's more interest. There's going to be, two people conversing, if you will, than one person just doing a kind of traditional solo podcast. Totally, totally good point.
So what tips do you have or advice do you have for a newbie like me? I mean, like you said, you're
Hmm.
season 3, you've been doing this for a while, you kind of started from the ground up. So what's your feedback for a successful podcast or a successful entry into the world and then bringing on someone with you to co-host?
Ooh, God, man, you're already bringing up all these killer questions, Lily. I would say making sure you pick someone you could vibe with, and that's the reason I chose you. And I think that that's going to mean a lot later on for season 3, season 4, etc. Choosing a good partner, because that's what I would consider you. I think that's vital. Number one. Number two, I think pick someone that the audience will connect with, and I think that's you, and hopefully me a little bit, but more than anything, you. And I think that that's going to lead to big, big, big things and a bigger and bigger audience as a result.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Those are really great tips. I'm hopeful and I'm looking forward to also being received well by the audience that you've already built. So that's really exciting. What about any of the tech? What tech should I
Mm.
have or do I need to have to be able to have success in this industry of podcasting?
Dude, so many good questions. Ah, it's obvious you're going to be studying this. I'll just tell you what we use.
I
We
want to
use,
learn. I'm a sponge.
yeah, I get you. I respect that. We use a thing called Riverside. Actually, we combine a few different technologies. By the way, so we have this microphone. You have to have a good microphone, although this is
Okay.
a fake microphone. My microphone in my computer works better than this. Uh, to be fully transparent, number one. Number two, what I would say is we use Riverside for basically it's the underpinning for our podcast. It records both audio and visual podcast elements. Number one. Then number two, Spotify. We use that as our main distribution platform. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, which used to be AnchorFM.com. And then also believe it or not, we use YouTube for for pushing out our visual
Mhm.
component of the podcast. And then also for our website, we use fusebox.com. And I got that from one of my buddies, Jason Hartman, who's, been doing podcasts for 19 years. I picked his brain and he said fusebox.com was a good one for embedding on your website. And by the way, embedding on your website is huge because social media is looking for, it crawls all these websites and it helps us because it performs optimization of the SEO. So somehow if Google's, out there looking for, SEO and on Bainbridge Island, Washington, where I live, it finds it. And so
Mhm.
another reason to do podcasts because it helps optimize your SEO scores.
Gotcha. Is there a way that, or maybe you haven't done it or don't want to then go into Instagram and TikTok and be on these, Reels platforms where you have those short snippets and then that kind
Mhm.
of brings them into your entire file of the entire conversation?
Again, oh my gosh, I gotta quit saying this, but you're a stud already, studette, I should say. Yeah, so we use Riverside. Somehow it does some magic stuff, and it basically gives us little component files of that we could basically send out to Instagram, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, that's very important. Luckily, we have a staff member who does that, Mona. She's awesome at it. So it gets out there in the social media because that's obviously what's. I mean, we want to be as efficient as possible by us using Riverside's magical elements. One of them is, create stuff for social media. So it's not us spending time doing the little elements of social media. It just kind of pushes it out with a little bit of help, but it's largely automated. So yes, we do use, little snippets for social media using Riverside.
Gotcha. That's awesome. That's great. I'm so excited to learn about all this and the logistics of it. So this is amazing. Now, are you able to track your audience and track to see your followers and how often they're coming back so that we can see if I'm working? Is this working? Is the content, where can we see what's vibing with people, what's landing, or what was a dud? Because I think that that's important to track too, is to go back and listen to those and say, that episode didn't really land. What did we do wrong? What is more entertaining?
Yeah, we use for that we use Spotify for podcasters. It shows us how many people heard the episode and how many people actually even and for how long they stayed with it. And then also how many downloads and how many followers we get. So it tracks all that stuff for us. Also, so does Fusebox. But the main thing there that we are going to be using would be Spotify for podcasters, number one. Number two, hence the reason I said, info@vastsolutionsgroup.com, because the more people who interact there, we will know if it's, if our shows are falling on deaf ears or it's being active, if people are actively wanting to engage. Hence the reason I threw out info@vastsolutionsgroup.com.
Yeah.
So the more people that email us, the more we'll know, it's hitting home for people. And by the way, that's the reason, I never understood this until now. The reason all those radio stations have those competitions, it's because they want to see how much engagement their listeners are providing. And that's the reason they do that. Hence the reason I threw out info@vastsolutionsgroup.com, which reminds me, we are going to have other little contests and giveaways just to see engagement, hopefully also increasing engagement.
Yeah. Well, and I'm looking forward to see what this contest would be because it's all really great when you earn tickets to the movie theaters, but it'd be really amazing to earn maybe, a week's worth of bookkeeping services and for free to show somebody how quickly our staff can move and making sure their books are in good order and how much cleaner their life could be. And then that just opens the door from them to learn more about all the avenues that Vast Solutions Group can help them with and make their business better, and or to a new entrepreneur to get started, because that's very important. And that can be very scary. You kind of want to go on your own and do your own business, but where's your people, right? It takes a village to raise a kid, and it takes a village to raise a business. So you run into someone like Vast Solutions Group who can come in and provide you so much support on a lot of the scary things and being a new entrepreneur, like taxes, because the federal government is scary. I mean that kindly, though. Love USA. Then, then I think that's really amazing. So
that's funny. But by the way, so wait a minute, you said you were nervous because there's going to be some people out there who are entrepreneurs, because we have, remember, like 2,000 people or real estate agents, maybe 2,500 who are in our database. And I think I bet you, as a guess, maybe a couple hundred only have podcasts, maybe even less than that. So, and I think a lot of them are afraid to start a podcast, and the reason is because maybe they don't know the logistics, but more than anything, they're afraid. So you said you're a little nervous. You didn't say you're afraid, but you said you're a little nervous. Why are you nervous? Number one. And number two, what are you doing to overcome that? Because you look totally natural.
Yeah, I'm doing absolutely nothing to overcome that other than just doing it. You can't dwell in the feeling of being nervous or afraid to try something new, because the reality is once you get to the other side, you'll look back. You can sit in front of the mirror and talk to yourself and coach yourself and say, don't be nervous. You can have some, tea or coffee, and that's always really great to overcome the nerves or not. But no, I did absolutely nothing to prepare to be not nervous about it. Why am I nervous? I guess two major reasons. One is you're kind of putting yourself out there. Yeah, you're talking about business and you're talking about the brand, but at the same time, there's a bit of a vulnerability aspect to put your personality out on the internet. And let's face it, I mean, cancel culture is a real thing. I mean, you say something that in a private setting in a joking way between you and someone you know, and it's in no harm no foul, but then you put it out on the internet and you can offend people and you don't mean to. And so I think there's the vulnerability of seeing how social media has really, changed the way that people interact and that people put in the ether, whether they like you, they dislike you, the tone of your voice, how you talk, maybe you misspelled something, maybe you said something incorrectly. And it's
Mm.
like, so I think it's that the nervous comes from that,
Mm.
that.
The way I look at it is, who cares? Who cares if someone, for one, it's only words. That's a big thing, by the way. And two, who cares if someone decides not to watch it? I don't really care.
Right.
I'm fine sitting in my office talking to myself. I don't really care in the whole scheme of things. That's the way I look at it. But I guess it
Well, yeah,
is
I
what
mean,
it
I
is.
agree. I don't think that it's a care enough to not do it. I'm obviously here and I've agreed to it, so I'm excited. But there's still that, jitter of like, okay, this is going out there, and it's excitement too. I think part of it too is an excitement, nervousness that you
Mm.
get for doing something new. Because there's always that fun aspect of I'm going to go try something new, and this is exciting. So I think it's a good combo of positive nerves and negative nerves, and I think it'll all even itself out. But like you said, I'm looking forward to seeing that 1 minute transition. Fast forward 3 years from now to see the difference in the two, and saying, "See, no big deal. Glad you just woke up and said do it."
Wouldn't that be wild if you are the next Oprah? From this
Oh
little start,
no.
you just never know. You know what I mean? You just totally never know.
Yeah, that would be insane. I don't see myself as that. I've always seen myself as the behind the scenes, kind of situation. So I don't know if I would be the next Oprah, but it is definitely exciting to think that
Yeah.
but I guess in retrospect, and I'm stuttering, I'm sorry. To think of the fact that this can be at your fingertips. Anyone can become the next Oprah, where you sit down and you interview someone or you chat with someone, like that's attainable now, it's attainable to be Katie Couric or Larry King or, Oprah nowadays, because you can just sit down and chat with someone and that becomes a reality. So that's exciting too. Lots of positive in podcasting and lots of positive in getting your name out there and getting people to listen to you. So that's fun too. But to those of you, since I'm sitting in this chair for the first time ever, if you are thinking about doing a podcast, if you are wondering if you're going to have enough to talk about, if you are nervous, I say let's just do it. I mean, the reality is the worst thing that can happen is that you don't do it anymore because there are no listeners. The end, right? The
Yeah.
best thing that can happen is you overcome it, you get positive feedback, you get conversion for your business, and or you just enjoy it and you surprise yourself. So I say just do it. Take the leap, get into podcasting, maybe even reach out to us and get your feet wet, dip your toe, and have your first one with us, and we can chat, and then that way you can see it's no big deal.
I love it. And how do they get a hold of us? info@vastsolutionsgroup.com. That's a good way to end on this, our first episode together. Man, I totally appreciate you doing this. I'm going to close up shop now by, hey, please listen and watch The Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. We're going to have an awesome season 3. It's going to be fun with young Lily. It's going to be fun with Kenner French. If nothing else, hey, it's a good way to pass the time, right?
Sounds good. Thank you for having me, Kenner. I look forward to more.
Good times.
Hey, good times.